Thursday, February 16th, meeting to order. Everyone would stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next meeting is to roll call. We'll have the minutes reflect all 5 board members are present. Next, the approval of the agenda. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into our spotlight report, Chat GPT.
Board members, Tracy Gazika did a presentation very similar to this at our administrators meeting, and she's currently working with our teachers to prepare them to handle this technology.
Oh, you're going to call it technology?
I would call it scary. But Tracy, I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay. So yeah, I developed a training slide deck I'm going to use with the staff on March 1st. I'll be at the high school and then 15th middle school. And so I just wanted to take about 5-10 minutes of your time tonight to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, has anybody here heard of ChatGPT? What have you heard about it so far?
I work for an educational technology company, so
you've heard all of
I
that.
know a lot about Chat GPT.
Okay. All right, so would you go ahead and go to the next slide? So what is it? ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence. It's also known as a natural language processor. It can accept input from the user in natural language and create original output based on the vast source of information it has access to. It can write essays, create poems, write music, solve problems, compose travel letter, create recipes, code and debug its own software. It can do quite a bit. So ChatGPT version 3 is currently available, but 4 is coming later this year, and it's supposed to be like exponentially better than 3, which is kind of interesting. Oh, can you go back one? There you go. Click on example 1 for me. So I have a couple of examples that I put together here for you guys to look at. In the link that you've been given in your word minutes, you'll be able to go back and look at these if you'd like to. But in bold is the prompt that I put in there. So I said, write a lesson plan to teach verbs. And it spit out this lesson plan with objectives, materials. Scroll down for me. Procedure has the introduction, identifying verbs. It did all of this for me with just that prompt. Go ahead and go to example 2. So this would be more for a CTE class. I said, write a business plan for my online store where I will sell crafts and shirts. It gave me an executive summary, company description, market analysis, gave me suggested copy, and did all of that in about 30 seconds. Go ahead and go back to your example for me. And I did this one just kind of fun. I did write a poem about a wonderful life living in Walton, Kentucky, and voila, I spit out this poem here, which I'm sure you'll enjoy reading. And then I asked it to write a funny limerick about living in Walton. So some of the more creative things, it can still do that, compose music, it can create art. Go ahead and put back on the presentation. Let's just do one more. Let's go forward. And this, again, in the CTE realm, asked it to write a program in C++, and it spit out all of my coding for me here. And actually, let's do one more. So let's go back to the presentation. Example 5. So I asked it to write an argumentative essay for a 6th grader that says that we should not have to learn math above basic math. So it came up with an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion in about 30 seconds. Yeah. All right, go on to the next slide, please. All right, so let's take a look. Next slide, please. All right. So this is a prompt that I threw in there, and it gave me a beautifully written essay, discuss the legalities of secession from the point of view of the Union and Confederacy. How do Southern and Northern understandings of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence differ? How do these different perspectives shape the question of secession, secession and slaveholding. Go ahead and go to the next slide. play button for me. So this is just, would you hit that full screen button in the lower right-hand corner? There you go, you got it. So I thought that prompt in there, this is something typical that a social studies teacher may ask, and I just wanted you to see that's about how long it took. And it composed for me what I would consider to be a B+, A- paper out of that question. And just as kind of an anecdotal side note, they did take ChatGPT and enrolled it in an AP course and made a B+ on the course with no human intervention at all. All right, go ahead and go hit escape to get out of full screen. And go down to the next slide. You may have to double click sometimes with computers. All right, and go back one more. So ChatGPT can also take any text and rewrite it as a student would at a certain grade level. So if, again, we would hit play and go full screen on that. So I've got this lovely essay, but I say to myself, well, I'm not really an A+ student, so I really want this to look more like maybe a 6th grader or a 5th grader wrote it. I can actually, in the same screen, ask it to answer the prompt, and then I can say rewrite as a freshman student. And it'll go back and analyze, it'll simplify the vocabulary, summarize a little bit, and make it look more appropriate for that grade level. Now, it's not as nuanced as to say, you could say that a 5th grade essay would look drastically different from a 6th grade essay, so it's not that specific. But if you give it a general direction of what you'd like it to do, it will go through and make the changes that you asked for. You go ahead and escape. And go on to the next slide. All right, I wanted to show you a different prompt and why this is a better prompt for ChatGPT. And so I'll be talking to our teachers about how to restructure some of their content so that it looks more like this. This is from Carrie Mayer, one of our high school teachers. She gives them source documents that ChatGPT can't get a hold of. They have them in their hands. And it says, after reading through the background essay and the supporting documents, write an essay answering the following questions. And on the next screen, could you go ahead and go to the next one? Hit the play button and go to full screen. So ChatGPT will try to answer the question, but it has a lot harder time because it doesn't know what those source documents were, but it will make reference to, in the source document or in the source article. And it actually will create like a fake name for a source document, I noticed when I put this prompt in. So it's not perfect, and it does make mistakes. So see right here it says according to the background essay. It won't say according to and like put the name of the title here because it doesn't know. So it's acting like it knows what those source documents are, but it really doesn't. And it'll say, the supporting document, Fourth Amendment, in quotes as though that's the name of the document, which of course it doesn't know the name of the document. So these are better prompts for our teachers to be using where they're relying on source material that ChatGPT doesn't have. So that's just an example. Go ahead and escape for me. And then on to the next slide. All right, go ahead and go to the next slide. And the next slide. A lot of these are prompts, which I've already shown you examples of. I just put them in, left it in here so you can take a look at them at a later date if you'd like to. Go ahead and go to the next one. And the next one. And sweep that movie, go to the next one. Oh, I think you're in the movie. There we go. So I did want to mention this. I call it balderdash. If you played that game, you're supposed to fake out your opponent, making it sound like you know what you're talking about. So one of the things we have to think about as teachers, when we talk to our students about AI, is bias. So because ChatGPT accesses vast storage of information, some of it posted with political, social, religious, or personal agendas, the responses it creates can sometimes show signs of racism, misogyny, and overall bias. So because it's reliant on the data that it pulls from the wide web in general, some of these things can show up in its responses. Additionally, it can make incorrect info. So ChatGPT has been known to make things up. It will create references to real-world scholarly publications, but make up study findings or infer causality when none exists. It also invents facts and gets things wrong. It never uses language like I think. It states it as though it's completely fact. Now, while this sounds awful, as a teacher, I say, what a fantastic opportunity to talk about media literacy. So even if we use an AI to get an idea of like information about something, the the need to fact check and look at resources always is super important. So I think that that's actually a teachable moment for us with ChatGPT. Go ahead to the next one. All right, there's also a companion to ChatGPT called Dolly. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So Dolly can take any description that you give it, a photo. I can say I want a photo of a beach with a seal and a crab and the sand drinking from a glass with an umbrella in it. And it will actually use its access to all the image data and create its own original photograph that looks like a photograph, but it doesn't really exist. And that's kind of the creative side of AI. If we go to the next slide. And hit that play button and go full screen for me. So this is a look into Dolly. I put in here a description of what I wanted. So I said a cubist painting of a mouse, reading a book with a candle. And then I hit generate. And while it's generating, it'll show me examples of art that it has created along with the prompt that created that art. So it'll show you, some of this. And this is what it came up with. So there's original, these were not painted by an artist. And I can hit regenerate if I wanted a different set of selections to choose from. And again, I'll get some examples. And there's another set of examples that it gave me. And then I changed that from cubist to colorist. And it didn't do quite as good a job with that, just changed the style. But you can see I can do 3D art, photographs, line drawings, impressionist paintings, whatever I want. Go ahead and hit escape out of that video. And on to the next slide, please. And I wanted to feature this just because I wanted you to see that this isn't just ChatGPT. The ubiquitous nature of AI, I mean, it's really everywhere. So this is just an example that Canva now has its own text-to-image feature that uses this. So if I go into Canva to create a newsletter or something like that, I now have this new feature here called text-to-image. So I put in here a rocket ship with balloons and a tractor. Just random. Then I chose the style down here, which I chose 3D, and then I hit, because my space over here is portrait style, I hit portrait style. And you're going to see very much the same as what we saw in Dolly. It's going to come with 4 different options. And I'm going to grab that one and move it over there. And so that's an original piece of art that I put into my publication using a piece of ChatGPT. Go on to the next slide. All right, so, but wait, there's more, a lot more. If you click on that link for me. By following this link, you'll actually see there's this place called Futurepedia, which has all different kinds of AI websites that people can access. If you scroll down, you'll see that there are plenty. If you keep scrolling and scrolling, they just keep going and going. So one of the questions becomes, from a teacher standpoint, sometimes our knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's block it. Let's pretend it doesn't exist. And there are 2 problems with that. One is there are a lot of other websites they can go to. The second problem is equity. So if I take that ChatGPT or all these AIs and I block them, my lower to middle socioeconomic status students may then lose access to those because it's only here and only on their device. But everybody else goes home and jumps right in. And so it does create some equity issues. So there are a lot of ethical questions we have to think about when we think about this AI technology. You go back to the slide. Go down to the next slide. So I just wanted to close by talking about some teacher strategies that I'll be discussing with our teachers. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So some strategies that can help. There are a couple of AI detectors. So if I, as a teacher, have a student turn in something and I think it looks a little off. Sorry, that's my phone over there. If it looks a little off, there are AI detectors. I can take that, copy and paste it in there, and it will tell me, like, oh, this is 99% sure it's AI of some kind. So it's almost like a ladder game where we go up a run, then they come up a run. We go up a run, and they come up a run. So there are some of the AI detectors I've linked here for our teachers that they'll be able to play around with and see what they like. Another thought is they can use Google Docs to draft their written work. And this will allow us to look at the version history. And there's a Chrome extension I'm going to show them called Draft Back that actually goes back all the way through all the revisions that a document has made, creates a little video so I can see that thing being typed up in real time. Now, does that mean that the student won't pull up on their phone the ChatGPT and then type it in? No. I mean, there will always be ways around it. So all of these, none of these are foolproof. strategies. And then lastly, we do purchase a product called Formative, which creates a lockdown browser. When our kids open up their Chromebook and go into Formative, they can't go anywhere else on that Chromebook. So that's a really nice way to get legitimate student work back. You go to the next one. Go ahead and speak. All right, so another thing that we might want to do is find ways to use it in helping our students to learn to think critically. So consider some small ways as teachers to embrace AI in their content area and start thinking of ways to build on what AI delivers. For example, you can have AI draft a response to a query, present it to your students, and then have them evaluate what AI came up with. What did it get right? What did it get wrong? Again, you have to provide support, so that in and of itself is a great critical thinking skill. And I put a link there to a Twitter thread on this topic. Go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so these are just some examples of what I as a teacher could do with ChatGPT. I talked to one of our English teachers in high school, and I was telling her, hey, if you spend a lot of time like I did as an English teacher writing the exemplars to show your students, you can have ChatGPT do that for you. You can also use it to respond to an assignment prompt and then have the students compare and contrast their own response to the AI response. Where do we think alike and how was mine different? One of the things I love to gamify, so play games like Spot the Bot, where you post several student examples along with the AI example and have them talk in groups about which one do they think is the AI writing and why. Why did they pick that one? And that to me is all top of the Bloom stuff. Like when you're talking about that critical analyzing, synthesis, all that stuff at the top of Bloom, that supports that. Use it to generate writing prompts or problems, so I can say to it, give me 10 word problems that use multiplication and a variable, and it will come up with problems for me. I can use it to write a lesson plan like the one I showed you. I can use it to rewrite my own teaching material. So if I have some resource documents I want my students to use, but I have kids who have very low reading levels, I can dump those into ChatGPT, tell it to rewrite it as a 3rd grader, 6th grader, whatever, and then hand that to my student to help them understand the content that we're covering. I can also use it to create summary notes or study hours content. I can use it to summarize the content of a YouTube video. There's another AI that will basically watch the YouTube video, go through the transcript, develop the top 10 points, and spit them out for you. So if I'm going to watch a video with my students, I can hand that to them as they're watching it or right after. If I've got a kid who has problems taking notes, I can hand that to them as a tool to use. So there are some really great things. And then have students analyze a piece that was written by ChatGPT. Have them actually take the rubric and grade the assignment so they understand how the rubric works, and they have to actually get into the content to see where ChatGPT did well. Go ahead to the next one. And go ahead and hit play. And full screen. Thank you. All right, so this is just another AI tool I just wanted to show you. So WordTube, if I go to YouTube, type in a content area video that I want to watch, like the Trail of Tears, I want to show you how it works. So it comes up as soon as it launches this Chrome extension, WordTube comes up and you'll see 10 key points, a brief history of the Trail of Tears, takes my 10-minute video and basically summarizes the top 10 points over here. So I can then copy that, paste it in a Google Doc. We've got a study guide for the video. So again, very powerful tool, I think, for teachers if we understand that it's coming, how to counteract it, and how to use it in our classroom. If you would go ahead back to the
Trail of Tears refers to the false displacement when light and negative analysis called.
There we go. Oh, go back up one. All right, so here's an example word problem prompt for ChatGPT. I say, write a set of 10 elapsed time word problems, audience, 2nd and 3rd grade math students, tone, lighthearted and silly, output 5 word problems that are at most 5 sentences long, include numbers for each problem, include the answers to each problem, include diverse names, include the Common Core standards for elapsed time, include short, and I put it in the AI detector, it still said 99.9%. Not to say it's going to catch every one of them, but I did massage it a little bit to see if it would sound like each iteration pick up the AI, and it did. So.
Okay, I was curious, because I watched a video recently, it was a teacher saying, hey, this is how you guys can use it in your classroom. Here's some things to also, and it started tweaking it some more, and then when you copy it, it was like, nope, this wasn't written by AI. And I was like,
Well, it depends too, because one of the things I've noticed with AI is I track pretty regularly. And I can tell you just a month ago, that was probably the case. And since then, there have been like 5 more AI detectors, including one made by Common Sense Education, who I love. I think that they're like a half a step behind the AI. So I think that what you say is true one day may not be true 2 days from now. It's a very quickly evolving field, for sure. But yeah, with all the AI detectors that are out there, and that's why sometimes you might dump it into several to see if any of them pick up on it. And I even noticed as I was putting in just prompt after prompt after prompt, as a teacher reading over that, I could see kind of how formulaic it is. And I got to the point where like, I'm pretty sure I can detect at this point whether it's AI or not. But yeah, that's a good point that what we did though is, like my son needed to do a cover letter, so he asked it to write him a cover letter, and it did a brilliant job. But he went in and made a lot of changes to it. It was a great starting place, and it helped him not look at a blank sheet of paper. But by the time it was done, it was probably 80% of his, you know. But yeah, it is kind of a gray area about what it will detect and what it won't.
And then my other question, sorry, Dan. So I think you said it was Carrie who had those questions, and necessarily the document wasn't, AI didn't have the document, but correct me if I'm wrong, is there a way like I could type in that document and then?
Well, even, not only that, is if I as a teacher scan something on the copier as an image, it can use OCR technology, optical character recognition, to flip that over into editable text and then read it, and now it has the source document and can, yes. So yes,
I thought so. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask if you had considered, I don't know if this is something you normally do anyway, but like at the beginning of a semester in a class where we'll be writing essays and things like that, if you would consider maybe like a writing prompt so you could kind of train your own AI internally, so you know kind of the tone, how an individual child writes, and so if you got in one of these situations where it's like, it seems like it's AI, and you're like, no, their written communication is much different than verbal communication. I don't know if it's worthwhile or not, but it's another thing you could try as almost like a fingerprint of the individual.
Like a writing style. Yeah. The problem would be it would be hard to prove, like if the child swears on the, the universe that they did it on their own, like you'd be hard pressed to prove it. Yeah, it's usually not what we know, it's what we can prove.
Yep.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying, for sure. Any other questions?
I definitely think it's a great tool that can be leveraged for good things.
Yeah, and it really is a double-edged sword. There are many bad things about just like technology in general, many wonderful things and many bad things.
Absolutely. Deal with it every day.
Every day. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Alright, moving into our principal reports, we will start with the elementary school.
Good evening. I didn't use ChatGPT to write a board report this month, although it was a little tempting. Just a couple quick things. Big thing is the map. We got our map winner averages there in front of you that I shared with you all. I think one of the quick highlights is compared to last year, we went up in our percentile ranks in math across the board. That's exciting. But really the bigger thing that I paid attention to, you all know that we had kind of a big change in our reading program, so that's what I'm really kind of keyed in right now. And anytime you have a significant change, you always have a concern about an initial dip. Anytime you're shifting something as big as we are. And I was pretty pleased to see second grade went up quite a bit in terms of the percentile number of scores. And we did have a little bit of a drop in third and fourth, but it's pretty minor. So in terms of going through that change into a much more robust curriculum that has a greater level of rigor, our kids are going to be much better prepared for reading and being able to dive into more difficult passages. I do look forward to kind of seeing how that played out. But when I saw those initial reading scores, I was a little nervous when I pulled it up. I was like, oh, I don't know what it's going to look like. We might have a bit of it. And we did in third and fourth. But I'm certainly optimistic about the future. I've been in a lot of classrooms, and today I had a couple, well, first graders on here, but I had a couple first graders reading through this morning. Books that they're looking at that have great content, building that content knowledge. Kids are excited as can be to be able to read to any adult that's willing to listen to them. So Exciting things going on in that regard. And then the other thing is on March 2nd, we're going to have a school-wide reading night. It's a Dr. Seuss theme, a little earlier than his birthday. We are going back to a school-wide event on that one, and if you wanting to come, get there early because parking is going to be at a premium. The reason we are doing that is later on in the year, we're going to have a mathnasium event where they bring in a truck, and it's a big math-specific night. And one of the requirements was this has to be open to the entire school. So we said, okay, well, if we're going to do that, then we need to open our reading night to the entire school. It's going to be an interesting evening. So again, if you want to come out to Verona on that night, make sure that you get there early. Otherwise, you might be walking down Porter Road a little while. And then on that last page, we got a lot of events that are still coming up. A lot of exciting things happening as we continue moving through the second half of the school year. So that's kind of it at the elementary school. Any questions for me? Thanks.
Good evening. We too just finished actually Tuesday finished 100% on our math. We got done pretty quickly, which was good, which means attendance was pretty good, I hope. I did a little bit differently on the chart than in the fall. I gave you a year, fall of 21 to fall of 22. This time I just gave you from the start of the year till now. The nice thing is that most of our RIT schools as a whole, as a group, are at or above that national norm. You can see what the growth is. In this particular report, not as much as we saw in the fall. Again, I'm just doing from the fall to the winter instead of a year. So just tried it different to look at it that way. And then you do see the numbers at the bottom. We always go spring to spring, so I like to look at it from the spring of 22, each testing window. The winter map tends to give us a little bit different overall data than we see like in the fall or when we compare the years. So, there's some things here that show some good things with the map data, but did run these a little bit different than I have in the past. You can see in some areas we're making some really good growth with our special ed population over there, and that doesn't mean that their RITs are on a good level, but the fact that we're seeing some short-term growth there just from fall to winter in a few of those areas is promising growth to see. The only thing of immediate interest is our these snow events. So I think there's the cold weather held up our way to be cold tomorrow. At least it's not raining, so no, it'll be cold. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving to our high school.
Good evening, board. A little thin tonight on the board report. I feel like we just did this 3 weeks ago. I haven't had a lot of data to compile since then. But I do want to share some stuff with you about the high school. So we are in scheduling season for next year. Same process, but a different look this year, utilizing that flex and focus. Previously, we would kind of suspend everything. All juniors report to the cafeteria, second period, hear the spiel from the counselor, and then follow that up with the counselor spending a whole day in English classes talking to the students and putting in the schedules into campus. So we changed that this year. What we did is we had all for example, we're in the week of the juniors right now, so we had all the juniors come to the cafeteria during their focus period on Monday, and then we scheduled a third of the juniors on Tuesday, a third of the juniors on Thursday, a third of the juniors on Friday to report to the multipurpose room during the flexible period. So that's where they're physically putting in their schedule request in Infinite Campus. So previously we lost 2 periods of instruction. This time around we've lost 0. So continuing to try to do that thing to remove interruptions, allow the teachers to teach. So I'm pretty happy with the way that worked. It will stretch it out a little bit longer, which I'm okay with. We don't need to be in a hurry to build a schedule. We have plenty of time to do that. And that allows the kids to get in their applications, it allows the kids to talk to the counselors, it allows the kids to talk to the parents to figure out exactly what fits their four-year plan. So I'm pretty pleased with how that is working. I will get feedback from our counselors, and then we will make adjustments as needed. So we're in the juniors this week, next week will be sophomores, and then we will continue on down the line. A big day coming up, March 7th, is the state ACT day. Our state juniors will be taking the ACT, mandatory that they take it online this year. So we're on Chromebooks, taking that for the juniors. Our sophomores and freshmen will continue on with the mock ACT, which is just a very significant piece of data for us, our teachers, and I hope the parents and the kids as well. So a little bit different in the past, you know, those ACT numbers went into our school accountability. The piece that comes from the ACT and school accountability really is that transition ready piece. That's 20% now, it used to be 30. The state did a change and bumped that down to 20. So we're going to continue to stress that to get the kids ready. We are having every junior rotate back through all 4 of their subject areas that they did in their ACT rotation class in the fall semester. They've been pre-scheduled into sessions in the flexible period leading up to the ACT, including a couple extras to go through the online registration for the ACT, complete the interest survey. They have 4 days of sessions in there, so again, not having to stop instruction, change the schedule for a day, we're utilizing that flex period to make that happen for the kids. And our seniors will be participating in a day of shadowing, work experience, college visits, or a day of service. And if they choose not to participate in any of that, they can come to school and we will have senior sessions for them, a list of options for them to go through that morning. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's a big day at school, obviously, a lot of stress. But I'm excited. So here is some data for you. Trauma-informed care. So we know students' social emotional well-being is ever-changing as they focus on many things in their life. There's a program that requires local law enforcement anytime they visit the house of a student in the state of Kentucky. They have to find out where that kid attends school, and they send a trauma-informed care notice to the people in charge of that school, the principal, DPP, so on. So that program's been in place for a little while. So we need to look at how we have that. We've asked you for the counseling, additional counseling position, which you guys gratefully provided. We know things are traumatic for some of our kids. And 21-22 school year, I received 4 notifications through this program. So far this school year, I've received 18. So that is a significant increase. And of course, you have to look at data. You can present data in many different ways. Is it the program growing in popularity now that the police officers know that they have to comply with that and participate in it? We have a great relationship with the Boone County Sheriff, so even when deputies were out at local houses, our school resource officer would always get those notifications through the round report the next day. He would share them with us as he saw fit to do. But I think that the numbers are up. So 18 trauma-informed care notifications this year. And what we do with that is the counselors get them. They send out a very generic email to the teachers of that child, saying, hey, this child received a trauma-informed care notification. You do not have to ask them about it. You do not need to address it with them, but just be aware that there are extra things going on in that child's life. If they seem like they are in distress or they ask to see the counselor, please facilitate that. And that's how we handle those. Upcoming dates, we got some things going on at the high school. Obviously, the one I'm most excited about is February 22nd. We got paired with DHL. A couple other schools have done this, but we're allowed to take 14 kids. We get like a full behind-the-scenes tour of DHL, their new, their sorting facilities that are at the airport, their dispatch centers. We had to go through some security clearance type stuff so we can get onto the tarmac. They're going to take us on a bus out to the planes. Really excited about that. We targeted kids through their ILP that were interested in shipping, logistics, airlines, air traffic control, the different careers in the area. So super excited about that, myself, and I know the kids are. And that's followed right up the next day by an educator's guide to industry, and that is focusing on the aviation industry, and that'll be at CBG on the 23rd. We have a lot of band performances. FBLA is going to need some Chipotle. If you're interested, there's the code. And we have an 8th grade scheduling meeting for the parents on March 13th. So they can come up, ask questions, figure out how high school schedule works, how 27 credits to graduate, 32 opportunities, all that. So busy time at the high school, and it's only going to get busier until we walk across that stage for graduation. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I've got a few. So on the ACT where it's all going to be on the Chromebooks, have we done it this way before?
So the state kindly encouraged us to do that last year. I was not on board with that because our kids just finished the ACT rotation with paper, pencil, tips, and tricks. So the state did offer an ACT to current seniors right at the beginning of the school year. As a COVID, you want to take a free one, you can do it. So we did do that. That was online. So our seniors did do that, and the feedback from the counselors and the students was very positive. There's obviously hiccups. It's more of an adult problem, logistically charging Chromebooks, getting power to them, getting the kids to do it the night before. But in terms of the kids, these kids have been math testing since they were in whatever grade. I mean, they're used to the online test. The feedback that they get from the kids is positive. From a counselor standpoint, in terms of scheduling it, they thought it was really crisp and clean and easy. So for us, this would be our first time going through the whole year class.
And my question going on that is, since it will be on the Chromebooks, is this like downloaded locally and they do the test and it's uploaded, or is it like all cloud-based? And what happens if power goes out, the page, somebody accidentally refreshes something?
Super similar to state testing online.
It's TestNav, which is, it's a lockdown browser. The kids don't even have to log into their Chromebook. They actually log out and they get into the apps thing. It's a really nice piece of software. We have multiple state tests that go through there. It's very similar to our standards assessments. Very easy, I'll say that, and kick myself here in a month, but.
I was more worried like the robustness, like what, like, because I know I have trainings that I have to do for work sometimes, and you get to the very end and it's like, whoops, and then you have to do the whole thing over, and I assume that's not an option on an ACT, so.
Yeah, if that was the case, they have the logs of the session, and our building assessment coordinator, our district assessment coordinator, which will follow up with KDE. But one of the benefits that does come with it is before we had to test on that Tuesday. Now we have a 3-day window. But we really like that idea of all the kids together, kind of that big, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to put all the kids together. They're used to that from their previous sessions, so we're going to continue with that. Knock on wood, it's gone pretty well. We've had, again, the same program used for state tests. We let the other schools work out the bugs last year.
Good. I have one more question.
Yeah.
It's a two-parter.
Okay.
So the first one is, do we know why, I have thoughts about it, but do we know why the transition readiness piece of the ACT declined? And the second part is, where did that extra 10% go? Like, what's the bigger focus now?
The bigger focus came to the, if I'm remembering correctly, reading and math. And there was, even in the press release when they did it over a year ago, they announced the change, that was a concern. We're taking emphasis away from the transitional piece, but if we are focused on the academic reading and math, then hopefully that transition piece will be in line because we're needing it on the front end with reading and math. I love transition readiness. I think it's a big thing for our kids to earn that. I mean, obviously that's why we try to highlight it with the boards at graduation. But we follow what the state does, and I'm excited for a good testing season.
Great, thank you.
Is that both parts?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, moving into our ECC.
As you can see, our numbers start at 90. From our last screenings that we did, we had 19 students in here. 9 of those are currently participating in RTI. They started this week, and we did have 1 student that qualified as an at-risk student. So that's what our numbers. Some news from the preschool, we do have a literacy night coming up on February 22nd. We're modeling this after the event that they did at the elementary school recently. It's the Adopt a Pet. So they're going to have pet house decorating, making bookmarks, cookie decorating, a book giveaway, and then at the end of all that, everybody gets a toothbrush and knows how to brush their teeth. So I had to throw that in there also. But we have had actually 82 of our students have RSVP, so we anticipate that's going to be a pretty big event here also. And we are also now fully staffed. We did hire an additional instructional aide. Her name is Marina Faulkner. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving into our bridge report.
Okay, good evening, everyone. The numbers for bridge program are staying relatively stable. We had a couple of exits and a couple of incoming as well, as I noted there. Good things here. I wanted to highlight, we've had 17 courses passed by 6 different kids, six different high school kids in this past month, which is outstanding. I'm very, very excited about that. That's showing good progress and great initiative on the parts of the students. So really happy about that. We do have one more diploma to be signed, I think, tonight. So that is great as well, and we'll probably have one more by next meeting for you. So, have you gotten the pleasure of signing one yet? Okay, last time. Okay. All in all, good month at the bridge program, and we had that little hiccup there. You can read about that with the false fire alarm that caused us some panic that day. But we got through that, and everything was fine afterward. So, any questions about the bridge program?
Thank you. Moving into our attendance enrollment report.
All right, enrollment, as you can see there, again, staying pretty stable, down 1 student in total there. You will not see an attendance percentage this month because it actually ends tomorrow. So next board meeting, we'll actually get 2 months worth of attendance from me. If this month did end today, we would have been at 94.19 for your information. So today, the elementary took a bit of a hit from stomach bug issues. So they were under 90% today, but the other schools were in the mid-90s. So those 2 schools seem to be faring a little bit better, but all in all, if we took an attendance percentage today, it was 92.35 for the whole district. So we're still holding in there. As Matt said, we're going to live to Friday tomorrow and get to the weekend. Hopefully things will be on the mend by Monday. So elementary, hang in there. I do not have an attendance trophy to award this month, so sorry everybody. I know that's why you all came. That's all I have for attendance.
Thank you.
couldn't be with us this evening, excuse me. And if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. If not, I'll get answers in writing for you tomorrow.
The only thing I had a question about was the archery building and moving the fitness center there.
Yes.
Is that a permanent move?
That's our intention, yes.
And are we worried about like traveling back and forth? I don't know if like entire classes are gonna go there. Is that something we're worried about with the traffic?
That space is not used during the school day.
Okay.
It's used, when we say fitness center, we're not talking about the really nice facility across from our gymnasium. There's a separate weight room down in the basement.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
It's like the team lifting
Yeah.
facility, like
Yeah.
squat racks
Okay,
and
yeah,
stuff.
I thought you were talking the actual
No.
fitness center.
yeah. No, in our talks, we're trying to make instructional space where that facility currently is the basement.
Okay, yeah, that was the only question I had when I read the report. I was like, that seems weird to move it permanently from there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it, thank you.
I guess that leads me to ask, will there be any hiccup in archery and weightlifting happening at the same time?
We have gone to great lengths to ensure that those two
Okay.
groups of students are separated by multiple walls and locked doors.
Okay.
All
right.
And we're actually, I'll call it the weight room itself is pretty Spartan. We're using some floor from middle school innovation, rubber floors. It's nothing fancy by any means, and most of the work has focused on HVAC, security, and ensuring those two spaces remain separate.
Yeah, don't need any flying arrows.
Right.
Anyone else have any other questions? Moving into personnel, did everyone get a chance to review that? Moving into other?
Board members, I just have a few things. Ralph alluded to some attendance issues in our elementary. We do have a stomach bug circulating in one particular grade. Our custodians are trying to disinfect those classrooms, as well as they can this evening. We began the day at the elementary at 89%. We sent multiple students home, but we are not anywhere near the point where we would need to consider an NTI day. If you remember, we took an NTI day right before the Thanksgiving break. By way of comparison, our attendance percentage at the elementary that Monday before Thanksgiving was 64%. So we're still at 89, so we're still in good shape. But we do need to, the weekend is coming at a very good time, so, we can do some additional things at the elementary to try to prevent the spread of the stomach bug. It's floating around that school. We also had this week some individuals in our middle school conducting an evaluation of our middle school math program. PIMSR is an organization that's affiliated with the University of Kentucky, and they specialize in program evaluation and professional development in math and science. So we had a team in our middle school this week, interviewed several teachers, did several classroom observations, interviewed some parents, and we're expecting a written report from that organization in the near future. The verbal preliminary feedback we received was very positive, but as soon as we get that written feedback, we'll be sure to share that with you, and we'll use that feedback to make improvements in that area. You all know that KSBA is coming up next week. I'll end with, I had informed the board, and I'm sure it had been discussed in the community, there's a proposed development on Beaver Road around the Armory. There was to be a meeting, or there was a meeting last night in Burlington with the Planning Commission, and that particular development was on the agenda, but it was removed. It sounded, I spoke to Kevin Costello in the Planning Commission, and it sounds like, at the very least, that project may be delayed. It is preliminary. It's going to be on the agenda for their next meeting on March the 15th. I'll attend that meeting, and we'll continue to provide you updates, but that potentially is a significant issue for our district. There are over 200 proposed apartments, 300 parking spaces, which would add to the already significant congestion of our intersection out here. So it is a concern that I have, both from a capacity standpoint for our schools, as well as a safety standpoint there at that intersection. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else? Moving into audience of citizens, about Mr. Heeks.
Mr. Mayor, give a hand out to the board. I'll be quick, thanks for the sheet. Sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the time. David Hanks, parent in the district, and I want to talk about the tennis courts here. Just a little bit of background. We have, Amy and I have 5 children. 3 out of 4 daughters either have or in the past or currently have played varsity tennis. In 2014, when Walton Verona started the tennis program, Mr. Gene Kirshner, who was the deputy superintendent at the time, called me into his office. He knew that I had played tennis in college. He basically asked, "Are you interested in starting up a tennis club for the district?" And I said, "Sure, I would love to do that, as long as there's no cost for any students participating." And that happened. The middle school, SBDN, is a sponsor for this club. They provided the rackets at the time, and a couple of years ago, there was a grant that actually provided some additional rackets. We've had, between the clubs, had as many as 50 students, K through 8th grade, in a year. Generally, I'll have somewhere between 13 and 30 students show up twice a week for the tennis club, K through 8. This week, I got a call from Mr. Corey Miller, the varsity tennis coach. He and I were both surprised to find out that the courts are blocked, not only blocked off because of the construction project that is thankfully happening now, but the courts cannot be used. I was a bit blindsided. I was part of a long-range planning committee that worked on a proposal that was presented before it was approved. I don't recall any discussion of this, the courts being closed. Would have talked about it at the time. Now, I know that with the construction project, you never really know what's going to happen. There's a shovel on the ground, and changes started happening. You got a couple of pictures there in front of you that I took today. I'm coming to ask for your help. You see some blue lines drawn on there, I think, very easily before the staging areas and more yellow iron construction equipment comes onto the site. That very easily, that some additional fence panels could be put up, or I had it drawn on those blue lines there to make a pathway to the courts and still keep the construction area separate and safe. I recommend a walk-through locking gate that only Corey Miller and I would have a key to, from parking lot access onto the courts. And also, their tennis balls will fly over the fence sometimes. They will end up in the construction area. So I recommend that those gates be locked and that only Mr. Miller and I have keys to that and retrieve those balls at the end of practice and don't allow the students to go out there. Recommend that there only be access to the tennis team. There are no public access, and you see the times of when the practice. The tennis club generally hold it on Mondays from 5 to 6:30, and on Saturday mornings they receive either 10 to 11:30. Recommend this take place at the end of the tennis season. A few benefits here. The varsity tennis team uses multiple courts to get the tennis team brings little to no money to this district. I know that because it's not like some of your other larger sports, so it's not a money-making sport for the district. However, it is important. Fallback is the city of Walton courts have been redone. There are 2 nice courts there now, but there are only 2. That's not adequate for the varsity tennis team. You need to spread out to all the courts that we have there in the complex. For the tennis club, I use 1 or 2 courts. That would work there. However, the problem is that the public courts, even though we would reserve those through the park commission, there would be a hassle for both Mr. Miller and I to chase the public off, if you will. Had that problem before at the Roma Complex courts. I called Mr. Kyle Bennett or the Boone County Police, and the people, and that would be more of a problem over at the Walton courts, I believe. Big thing here, and my youngest daughter will start driving here in just a few weeks, it's very thought, but it's happening, is that right now, Mr. Miller has rescheduled all of the matches that were planned for the home courts to be away. That puts every single one of these tennis players on the road to travel to these away matches. There's a safety and liability concern. Something happens to them, the district has a liability and concern simply for safety. Lots of schools love coming to these courses. They're some of the finest courts in northern Kentucky. So we had no problem with that at all. The shed that you see there in that top picture actually houses all of the tennis equipment, rackets, nets, score paraphernalia, tennis balls, and what have you there for it. So that's my request is for you to consider, please consider doing that fence off and allow safe access to the courts for the tennis team, also for the tennis club. Appreciate your time this year. Have any questions at all?
So I have one question for you. And it's funny that you are talking about this tonight because my son is all of a sudden interested in tennis.
Excellent.
So my question is, I understand your top diagram. I assume parents watch the tennis tournaments. Where would you propose in your diagram that there would be availability for parents to attend and watch the tournament?
It's hard to see this. Now, the tennis club has no tournaments, so we don't do that. It's all.
Correct, yeah.
But for the tennis team you're talking about,
Yeah.
you can't see it in this picture, but there are two sets of bleachers there already. And that's where the parents sit.
Right, and they're normally over here, so they're probably blocked off right now too, right?
They are blocked off now too by that one fence going across the parking lot, yes.
Okay.
It's all blocked off. By the diagram, you see in the lower picture there, with that blue line there, that actually is kind of hard to see. It actually goes, I guess that'd be the northwest corner of the tennis court. So even with that, if we put a blocked off fence there, those two sets of bleachers would still be available for parents to sit, or a lot of parents will bring their portable chairs and sit there. So what I'm proposing there is we access not only to the courts, but the seating area for respectful as well.
So I wasn't sure what this was.
Yeah, that's.
I can tell what this was.
Yes, that's the opposite end of the court, basically. This is going to be like a past hole there, coming on over to the fence and borders of the soccer field practice area.
Okay.
Which fortunately has been left open, a large space there for, I assume, middle school football, and I assume, and soccer will be able to play. And so that's, the rest, the daffodils in my yard, about 8 inches tall, the weather's gonna get nice, we're gonna get out there on these tennis courts very soon, so, time to do it.
I had a couple of questions. So I recall, maybe it's been a month or 2 months, I'm fogging up the time, but a month or so ago, you had informed the board that you were considering kind of closing off public access to that, but I don't remember there being like a letter to the community to alert it.
We've not done that yet because the construction hasn't begun in earnest. The work over there now is staging all the materials. The last, not today obviously because of the weather, but the last 2 days they started moving some dirt, if you will. I'm trying to wait as long as I can to close that off because I know for some folks that's not going to be a popular decision. So I'm trying to wait as long as I can to make that decision. But that is coming.
It sounds like you're closed off right now.
No, that's, if you drive over there, the fence that you see, you see the staging materials and heavy equipment in the background on the top picture. You can still get to the parking lot, the baseball fields, the softball fields, all of those things. The problem with this is the access road for the bus lane is going to go behind the tennis courts. So the tennis courts are literally surrounded by all of this construction, and that's, in our discussions, that's been the concern, is they're surrounded by all of this work. So how do we work around that? We discussed access to the tennis courts here at the city park. The issue, as Mr. Hinks stated, is there are not enough courts, and to have a match, you need a number of courts, you're going to be there half the night. We discussed potentially partnering with a neighboring school district to use their courts. So we're trying, I want to work with you, Mr. Hinks, but unfortunately, throughout this project, we're going to have a lot of groups that are going to be inconvenienced. So I'll talk to Kyle Bennett, and he can get with Corey, and we can try to come up with a solution that everybody can live with. I would add, you brought up the transportation issue. Transportation for spring sports is a significant challenge for us, but every coach does have the ability to request transportation. And for example, the tennis team, you have a smaller number of kids. We can arrange transportation for the tennis team. That may be in a van or one of our smaller buses, but if Corey requests that, we can make that happen. But we're just not offering blanket transportation for everybody. So, but I will speak to Kyle Bennett and try to, and it may be, we ask that you and I and Kyle and Corey try to sit down and figure out something that everybody can live with. But just our concern with blocking off the tennis court was just not having kids in an active construction area.
I appreciate the time. I thought that you know, with this just now initially happening before the heavy construction starts, this is the time to approach you before the staging area. It's even more than that. So.
What would you say the tennis, obviously you don't do the club all year round.
Correct.
What time frame do you do the club?
Through the end of the school year. We have our,
When do you start it?
we'll start as soon as the weather gets nice.
Okay.
We'll be out there, so March generally, early March generally we'll be out there. And that's when the tennis team will start to the middle of March.
Thank you for everything for the kids.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up question. So, do we still have someone living physically on that site? Okay, and is that something, so my concern is if we've got an active construction site, probably not safe to have someone living on an active construction site. I'm not a lawyer, seems like it wouldn't be legal, but that's a question I have as well.
I'll give you a very vague answer. I can tell you right now that there are changes that are going to be made here.
Okay.
I got your little layout signed in. You okay? Can you talk about?
You signed in over there?
Yeah.
And you signed in on our actual paper?
I'm sure.
To the meeting there.
It's a special thing.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll bring this back to you. How about that? I can show my rear end to everyone else enough on my own without standing in front of everyone leaning over. Thank you all for allowing me to speak to you all. I wanted to first congratulate the new people, and yeah, I know everyone pretty much knows me as far as it goes, but formal introduction, I guess. I'm Mayor Brown, and we'll look forward to the working relationship with you all as we have maintained probably for the past, at least since I've been a part of working for the city, so a decade, I guess. I had two brief things, and I will be brief. Wanted to talk to you all. I completed my emergency management training last night. I've done some training through Kent County. Last night's was a little bit more in-depth with Boone County. Some things that were brought up and kind of, you know, stuck out to me, particularly with recent events, was some of the potentials for disasters around and the need for walking together an action plan. We've got 2 major rail lines coming through town, not only Waltham, but Verona. We have had a tornado at least 2017, 13, 14. So the goal is wanting to try to put together with different community leaders, churches, some of the larger businesses, school, of course, and kind of come together with a plan, just, you know, get a collective mindset of what may or may happen in any event. So we have, should anything happen, heaven forbid, that we have a plan, we have a strategy, and we've got some ideas of where to go. So I just wanted to let you all know that that will be coming down the line, and I hope that you all will be participating in that. The second thing, I have talked to Dr. Baker about this, but I wanted to bring it up to you all directly anyway. The City Council passed a resolution in opposition of Senate Bill and House Bill 50. I'm sure all of you all have at least an idea of that. Would make local elections, school boards, councils, mayors, even county commissioner races, and for whatever reason, water and soil conservation officer, a partisan election. It's going to add a lot of extra costs to the state. You know, I know Dr. Baker spoke with the School Board Association. They have their opinion. KLC, particularly the city, has their opinion. It did come from Damon Thayer. He's the head of the Senate. He's also head of the committee. So there is a pretty good possibility. It is a little bit more concerning, you know, that it's coming out of both the House and the Senate with 2 almost identical bills. So it at least has the potential of reason for it. You know, I can't, you know, I know how the cities feel about it. We have pretty much spoken out against it. It very well, as the School Board Association told you, Dr. Baker, very well may die in committee. The reason I'm bringing this up to you all is I'd like you all to keep an eye on it. Because it very well may die in committee, but it will be brought back up. And when it's brought back up, I can almost promise you that it's not going to have cities attached to it. You know, I can't completely 100% confirm, but it's directed more towards school boards. You know, I think probably the thought process was, well, if you're going to go after school boards and make them have partisan races, you know, why not do everything? But I just have a sneaking suspicion, and I've got some friends that are pretty, you know, pretty big legislative advocates that know, have a good ear to the ground. So I just want to make you, you know, just keep your eye out, okay? And I will be in Frankfurt next week for the League of Cities Day and Night. I'll be in a House chamber session. I'll be in a Senate chamber session, as well as meeting with legislators. But if anything happens, I probably won't stand up here again and talk to y'all. I'll just compensate for it. thank you for your time. I have to be at work at 3:30 in the morning tomorrow for a special assignment. I'm not used to that, so please forgive me if I don't stay for the rest of the meeting. And hang on one second, Heather. It's okay if I put my address down and it's 40 North Main Street, because that really gets me, that kind of gives me the giggles.
I can find you.
It ain't all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. All right, moving in to board approval motions. Approval of the minutes, January 26, 2023. May I have a first?
I can make it.
First by Aubrey. Discussions or questions? Can I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Moving into the approval of the superintendent's expense report. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
By David. Discussion or questions? Have a second?
I'll make it.
By Aubrey. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Moving into the approval of the treasurer's report. Have a first? First by Jamie. Discussions or questions?
Thanks.
Have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Approval of the orders of the treasurer, the bills. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Aubrey. Discussion or questions?
Thanks.
Did everybody see the response and I sent that out?
Yes, thank you.
Questions?
In red too, do you like purple or something?
I can try it.
Lighter?
Red's not to be,
Red.
you know, like bad grade on it, it's just, so it stands out.
So you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very thorough and I
Yes,
appreciate it.
respect your authority. Great.
I appreciate the first reminder. I was like, oh, I'm gonna need some help on that.
Yeah, so that's a weird one. They have like, we really have funds from like 3 different sources for that. Primarily it's a state grant, and then they get some donations, and then anything that doesn't kind of fit into there, or if they run out of the other things, then we come to the board, the general fund pot of money for that.
All right, have a second? Second by Jamie, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Moving into the approval of 2023-2024 Student Accident Policy Plan 4, Scheduled Benefit Coverage, and Catastrophic Coverage for all students. Can I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions?
I was gonna say, just real quick, this is the same exact thing we have this year and for 5+ years, going back probably 10. You can see we're renewing with the same company, it's the same price. I feel really fortunate about that because we've had some claims that I would have thought would have been stuff. And you can see that's reflected in the other two, but longevity with the same carrier has some benefits sometimes. And so we're thankful that stays the same. And we don't have to provide coverage to all students. KHSAA requires us to provide it for student athletes, but it's a minute amount. It's a couple of $1,000s to cover everybody, because the athletes are the high-risk ones, right? They're the ones tearing knees and stuff. So we think it's a good value to add that and to cover everybody, because we have had students blow out knees, like, you know, at other events that aren't sporting events, gym class, you know, outside activities, you know, that were school sanctioned, so they're covered. So we feel like that's a good value to add for the community.
The coverage amounts are still sufficient for what we think we need.
Yeah, they're kind of standard, so they're required, and then that catastrophic amount, I forget, you know, covers anything over $25,000. And really, you're talking about like pretty serious, like reconstructive surgery to get beyond that. And you can see that goes up to $7.5 million. You know, I'm sure we could provide more, but that seems to be kind of what they suggest, and it is adequate. And I think that coverage period, I think, lasts, it's either 10 or 20 additional years.
Yep.
7. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Questions? Can I have a second? Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Approval of field trips. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Albert. Discussion or questions? May I have a second? Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. Moving into adjournment, may I have a first? First by Jamie. Discussion or questions? Have a second? Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 4-0. We are adjourned at 7:00.